Right, let's talk about bore score, shall we? So, anyone who's looked into buying a Porsche and spent more than 20 seconds on Google will hear any Porsche you buy is going to get bore score, the engine's going to explode, it costs more than the car to replace. That's not quite true. So, bore score predominantly in the 996, 986 generation 911s and Boxsters, and the 997 and 987 generation 911s, Boxsters and Caymans. So even when you say that, it's not all of them. So only the 987 and 997 ones. It's not the GT3s, it's not the turbos. And I think in the 996 generation, so in the 996-2s, I don't think the early ones suffered from bore score. Depending on who you speak to, it's either 1% of cars, 5% of cars, 10% of cars, or every single car is going to get bore score eventually. Every car's got something going on with it, hasn't it? So, what is bore score? Well, fundamentally, nothing more complicated than the piston rings making contact with the cylinder walls, or the liners, and scoring them, hence bore score. Why does it happen? Well, depending on who you speak to, again, you get different things. Some people say, if your injectors aren't working right, they wash the cylinders and you lose all your oil and that causes it. Some people say it's down to temperature, so coolant temperature specifically. Typically, bore score starts on cylinders 4 and 6 on bank 2, and they're the last in the coolant run. So I guess that makes sense. And then something that I don't think you can ignore. Who thought 2-year intervals on oil changes was a good idea? No idea. It certainly wasn't anyone that I would like to associate my time with. You need to do it more often than that. And all these really modern thin oils that burn off a lot as well, that's not a great plan either. So, how do you see if you've even got bore score? Well, people will tell you there's telltale signs from outside the car. And again, I don't think they're wrong, but I think if you're new to Porsche and you go and look at a Porsche, you're probably going to misdiagnose that, because a really common one that people talk about is the engine smoking. Well, in true, they all do that, sir. Flat 6 engines can be smoky. The 996 I had and this 987 can be smoky. Typically, it's if I haven't used the car for a long time, or if I've done a very short use of the engine, like I've moved it around on the drive and then I start it up again, I'll get like a puff of smoke. It's really, really common. I don't think I've seen many Porsches that don't have a little puff of smoke when they're a flat 6 engine. Ticking when cold and the ticking increasing with engine speed. Yeah, that's one of them. But the ticking is quite different, I think, when you hear a bore scored engine. I think Wheeler Dealers did a rebuild that you could go and have a listen to it, and it sounded atrocious. And then you get another kind of ticking where you get a little chatter sometimes from the flywheel. You get loads of that if you've got a lightweight flywheel, it seems, which is a shame because I'd really like a lightweight flywheel, but then everyone's going to think my engine's got bore score. So, you know, people talk about soot on the tailpipes. I think you can only really tell that on a 911 where there's separate exits, where you got like one exhaust for one bank. You get sooty tailpipes. That's a thing. So what do you do about it? How do you try and prevent it? Well, loads of people say make sure you use decent fuel. If you're in the Porsche Club GB, you can get discounts on SO Premium, which for a long time was the only one that didn't have ethanol in, or had a lower ethanol count, whichever way around it is. I just use that. SO Super Unleaded, it's fine. People say use really good oil. I use Miller's 10W50 that I change every 12 months. I think if I was doing track days, I'd do it more often than that. And I use 10W50, which has got Now, I'll get this wrong, won't I? The second number, it keeps its viscosity at a higher temperature. I think that's right. And it's the Milazenti plus Nanotech CFS, which Hartec recommend. And Hartec are seen as the kings of Porsche engine rebuilds, so if they recommend it, it's probably good. The other thing I've done, cool temp thermostat, again, Hartec recommend you do those. Means your thermostat opens at a lower temperature, which you've got to think if it's heat related can't be a bad thing either. I've added to the thermal capacity of my cooling circuit by having a centre radiator. It's just the one that you can get that's on a Tiptronic, so you know you can get these kits. I think I said in my other video I paid like £250 on eBay. I went on eBay, there's none at that price. So I've linked to the kit that you can get from Design 911. And obviously to protect that radiator, and indeed to protect the ultra fragile aircon condenser radiators, I've got Zunsport grills. I have heard weird stories of people who've had rebuilt engines saying that they won't get a guarantee or a warranty on the engine if they've got radiator grills. That seems crazy. Like, there's no way it reduces the airflow that much, and surely it protects the radiators, which therefore protects the engine flavor. Who knows? And then I've obviously got this deeper baffled sump. Does having a bit more oil make a difference so it takes longer to get hotter? Maybe. The main reason I bought that is tyres have come on a long way since this car came out 20 years ago. And when you've got a car that's prone to having problems with cylinder walls, making sure your oil pickup's always got some oil available to it seems like a damn good idea. That's why I've done it. So how do you properly check? I think the only real proper way to check for bore score is to get a camera in there and get it bore scoped. I wouldn't buy a 997 or 9871 or indeed a 996 that hadn't got either a rebuilt engine from a reputable rebuilder like Hartec or Autofarm or RPM Technic or someone like that who really understands Porsche and is a proper specialist, or if the car had had a bore score check done, which mine had done. I bought my car from Sean at Flax 6 Classics, highly recommend him, really nice guy, just mega Porsche enthusiast. He loves 986 Boxsters. He's got some outrageous stock sometimes, absolutely beautiful stuff. But he did a bore score check for me and he gave me a report, and I'll put a link to the picture in the video. And then I know that it's got no bore score, so that seems like the most sensible thing to do. In summary, would I not buy a Porsche because of bore score? I don't think so. Like, any performance car that you seem to look at has got something going on with it. If you want an E46 M3, you know, all sorts of reasons why it's going to implode itself, because like the subframe's going to snap on the back of the car, or I think they've got problems with rod bearings now, haven't they? And the Vanos doesn't work properly. You know, you want to buy an E90 type M3, throttle actuators, rod bearings, anything that's quick is going to have something that goes on it. Obviously, the engine completely grenading itself is a pretty big thing, and repairing a bore scored engine is not a cheap endeavour. Some people, I don't really understand why, just get the bore scored cylinder rebuilt, or just that bank rebuilt, and obviously the reason why is cost. I'm not sure I'd buy a car that had a partially rebuilt engine. You kind of like want it all done. The problem is getting it all done is super pricey. If you want a displacement increase, which I think if you're going to rebuild the engine, you probably should do. If you want a 4.1 rebuild on a 3.4 M97 like this, it's like 20 grand. That is big money. Now, it is also probably about 370-ish brake horsepower, 380-ish, maybe a little bit more than that, and a bucket load of torque, and a bigger torque band, so it must be brilliant to drive. 20 grand plus the sale of this car gets me into a 981S or bottom end of the GTS. That's a big old jump. I think just getting it rebuilt to standard displacement is the best part of 10 grand. The reason for the big difference, as I understand it, between a displacement increase to rebuild and a normal rebuild is the crank. I think the only place you can get a crank from is direct from Porsche. It's the crank from the 3.8 997 Carrera 2S. They're expensive, and I think they've become a lot more expensive post-COVID and probably Brexit. Yeah, so every car's got something going on with it. I think you've just got to go out and get something that's been well maintained. If you go and find a car that's had regular oil services, it's got Borescoped clear, and you stay on top of it, you do the additional preventative maintenance like I've done on mine. So again, just to say it, the oil, the radiator, the coolant, the cooler thermostat, and the, you know, all those sorts of bits. I think you've got to be damn unlucky if you get bore score. That's going to make a great YouTube video if I now get bore score, isn't it? Yeah, just go and enjoy your car. Go get one.